So I'm in LA and I'm going to the Getty Museum, and they have like a tram kind of system to pick you up before you go in. It's really exciting, and I'm going to show you from getting in and probably just my highlights while I'm there. So let's have a look together. So getting off straight away, I was already really excited about the whole tram ride, going onto the hill and just experiencing a whole nother view of LA. I was overwhelmed just with the actual architecture of the building, which really reminded me of 1950s America and architecture it's famous for. However, I found out this was built in the 80s and 90s, so it's quite an interesting read. Moving on to the next main hallway, this piece by Charles Ross at the Getty was part of Light and Space, where he worked with prisms, solar geometry, and the idea of spectacle colour, with the idea of behaviour of light and the physical behaviour, how we work around it. It was very interesting because you'd hear these shutters going around and then the prisms would move the spectrum of light. And at first, I thought it was an accident of the building until I realised it was actually an installation. It was so great to see how nature, architecture, and good design can all come together to make this art installation, and see how people respond. Some people didn't. Later on in the day, I found children very much did. I loved it myself personally, and I thought it was a wonderful thing for this beautiful building. We're now going into the next part of the building, as the Getty is made up from many buildings, and this piece I was really inspired by, with how modern it is on the traditional idea, and a controversial, interesting title by James Ensor, and it's called Crisis Entry into Brussels. It was made in around 1889, and the idea is about the crowd, chaos, lots of mask and identity and distortion going on there. As you can see, it does feel kind of a bit like you're in some kind of whole big festival, and I like the idea of if it was Jesus was to not be in the biblical times but coming later on, and how it would be around. So I did find this actually really interesting. The scale of the piece was remarkably big. I had to zoom in so you could see the story, and going on to more religious artwork, which I don't normally pick as much, but this one was John the Baptist's head on a platter. It is made out of bronze on a sculpture, and it just was remarkable. It really just felt like a head was on the platter. And then going on to one that I wouldn't normally pick because I don't normally like classical sculpture as much. However, this piece stood out to me with the actual subject matter, how it stood out in the room, and I couldn't quite place what it was at first until I read about it. And what I realised, it was the artist had actually used black marble to decipher the actual artist's skin tone, and I just thought this was wonderful. It's by Francis Harwood, Bust of a Man, and he was an 18th century artist, and I really like the fact that he actually kept the person's features within the actual sculpture. As I said, the Getty is made up of different buildings with different houses. The next house that we will go into is more modern work with Turner, Munch, and some other really exciting imagery. But that will be in the next part video. I just wanted to let you see the gardens, which I've not seen gardens like this that have excited me with amazing views since many years ago when I was Rome, and I was lucky enough to go and see the Vatican, and this just overwhelmed me with the sculpture, garden part, the gardens, and everything. And I hope you enjoyed watching, and look forward to part 2 next week.